many, many poems and travelled extensively around Europe. But the line I like the best is this one. Rise like lions after slumber, in unvanquished number. Shake your chains to earth like dew, which in sleep had fallen on you. Ye are many, they are few. I quote Shelley because he inspired like so many others do. I'm proud to be at Glastonbury because it inspires so many to music festivals all over the country. Let us be together and recognise another world is possible if we come together to understand that, understand the power we've got and achieve that decent, better society where everyone matters. Crucial. To me, it has a deep personal significance. A mile away from where we stand today stood a young woman alongside thousands of local people, trade unionists, socialists, communists, Christians, Jews, Muslims, people of all and no faith. They stood here, and it was told to me in great detail, with one simple aim: to stop Oswald Mosley and his fascists marching through the East End. That woman was my mother. She stood here, along with so many others. She wanted to live in a world, as we all do, that's free from xenophobia and free from hate. Those who daub a synagogue with anti-Semitic graffiti, defile a mosque with Islamophobic hate, or any other community that suffers that abuse or racism, we are on their side to defend all those communities and the kind of multicultural society we want to live in. Post the referendum in June, there's been a disgusting and disgraceful rise in xenophobia and hate crime across this country. The only answer to it is communities coming together to support each other, not allow it to go on. If there's a shortage of housing, of school places, there's a queue at the doctor's surgery, there are difficulties in a local hospital, you can always find a minority to blame for everything. And then you've created the hatred and the vileness in society that creates the distrust. But at the end of it, you haven't built a house, you haven't built a school, you haven't trained a teacher, you haven't trained a doctor. We will not be divided. Our solidarity is total, our unity is complete. For we want a world where there is unity and peace, not racism, xenophobia, poverty and division. Thank you very much.
Anti-Semitism is simply wrong in any circumstances whatsoever. It's not tolerated in any form whatsoever in my party, and should not be tolerated in any form whatsoever within our society. We have adopted the definition by the HRA, and we've adopted most of the examples and put forward a very comprehensive and full code of conduct within the party, which has been approved by our national executive. We are continuing to consult and discuss with the Jewish community and Jewish organisations to ensure that it operates in the best way possible. And I think within the party and in public life, people should always treat each other with respect, listen to what people say, and express their point of view in a calm way. I do not have any direct control over what happens with disciplinary processes within the party, although I'm obviously a member of the National Executive, and I think it's right that any complaints are dealt with independently of me, and the party process has to take place on that. But I'm determined that we will not tolerate anti-Semitism in any form, anywhere in our society or in our party. I've not spent my life as an anti-racist campaigner, starting here in the West Midlands in 1970, to allow any form of racism to grow within our society, and I'm absolutely determined that we live in a Britain that's free of racism and has respect for people of all faiths and all ethnic backgrounds and communities.
For the first time in a long time, I thought it was really important as a Jew to come out on the streets of London. And I'll tell you why through some anecdotes. My mother, both my parents were refugees. My mother came on the Kindertransport. My grandmother escaped 2 months before the war. All my life I have lived with European anti-Semitism and its effects. My mother slowly always thanked Britain for letting them all in and wanted to pay something back, and became a local political activist in North London, where she worked very closely with Jeremy Corbyn and Diane Abbott. And they all became firm friends as well as colleagues, and did a huge amount to deal with a range of social problems in North London in the 1980s. The idea that Corbyn is an anti-Semite is quite frankly idiotic. So then we have to think what's going on. There are local elections coming up in the Labour Party. There are deep problems around anti-Semitism, not so much in Britain, thank goodness, but in Europe and elsewhere. We need to focus on the serious stuff. And this is a manipulation by an Israeli propaganda outfit, by the right wing of the Labour Party, and goodness knows who else, to foment an issue that really has no backbone. We're members of JVL. We come from constituencies around the country. We have nothing to report in terms of anti-Semitism. We need to think bigger and better. My last point is, if nothing else, if the media coverage of this moment doesn't begin to reflect there are many communities and many voices in London, then we have to blame the media, because there is a public debate happening amongst Jews about these issues. That's important. There isn't one Jewish community, there isn't the Jewish community, there are many, and we all need our voice.
Every now urging.
Okay, let's be very clear about what that code is. There is no such thing as an agreed international code. There's a document that has been pushed for many years now by pro-Israel organisations, and the problem with it is that it includes in its provisions elements that are designed to prevent certain kinds of criticism of Israel and of Zionism. It's designed to do that. And the danger that this presents has been identified by many Jewish commentators. We in Jewish Voice for Labour, and many of our friends, really resent the fact that it's presented as if there's one internationally recognised definition and all Jews want it. We don't. The harshest critics, the most coherent critics, have been leading Jewish intellectuals such as Anthony Lerman, former head of the Institute of Jewish Policy Research, Brian Klug, a leading expert on anti-Semitism, and even, this is significant, Kenneth Stern, an American academic who drafted the original document, which has morphed into this IHRA thing because it represses freedom of speech. And why do people adopt it with such alacrity? Well, let's face it, if you go to a local authority or a governmental body and you say, we've got this thing which is going to get rid of anti-Semitism, people will go, oh my God, we all hate anti-Semitism, tick. I have been at council meetings, I've been in council chambers where the document is presented, there's no discussion, no debate, everybody just puts their hand up. It's a fake, Norman, it is a fake, and we are being snowed with this thing. What Labour has done is to really coherently take on board everything that's good about it, everything. I mean, you can look at it line by line. What they've done where where it's dubious, where it endangers freedom of speech, they have expanded it, they've discussed it. Is it anti-Semitic to say that Israel is a racist state?
Jeremy is not and has never been an anti-Semite or a racist. It is absurd for Margaret Hodge to make this accusation, and to make an accusation in that form, whether or not with the expletive deleted, should be unacceptable behaviour, and she should apologise. That is not the way in which we conduct debates in the Labour Party.
But she seems to have lots of support from the Blairite factions within the Labour Party.
She may have support from Blairite factions in the Labour Party. It is nothing to do with the Labour Party today, with its absolute commitment to fight anti-Semitism in all its forms. The argument is to what is anti-Semitic and to what extent criticism of Israel may or may not be anti-Semitic. And it's important we make these distinctions. Anti-Semitism, in our view, is hostility to Jews as Jews, and it needs to be opposed.
Well,
criticism of Israel is criticism of Israel, and unless it shows hostility to Jews as Jews, it is political criticism and argument, and has to be fought on that basis.
Crying wolf's a bad idea. You care about anti-Semitism? Of course it exists in the world. I mean, is it the biggest problem in the United States right now? Not even close. But yeah, it exists. I mean, Norm Finkelstein will tell you it exists. Of course it exists. If you're gonna cry wolf anytime anybody says anything not entirely milky and honey about Israel, people are gonna stop believing you. That's exceedingly dangerous. Now, maybe you care about human rights for everybody, maybe you don't. You only care about, rights for Jews. Well, you can get on board. One could get on board if one felt that way. Because if you keep crying wolf, no one's going to listen when it really hits, And it can really hit. In Europe, in anywhere. And I'm not paranoid, oh my God, they're coming out of the woodwork. I mean, there's a long list of ethnicities that are under far worse threat right now. Jews would be like the safest next to like whatever majority in any country. I know that. But yeah, it's been around. It's a real thing. It could happen. There's more of it in the U.S. since Trump. It's true. I just defer everyone to the Holocaust industry. It's a real perversion of anti-Semitism and the Holocaust to weaponize it for PR purposes, to cover up, anything from nasty nationalist stuff to real crimes. That's really bad, and if I were the kind of person who gets offended, that would be very offensive. It actually offends me, I'm not gonna lie. That's bad. So it's just one of these false binaries that just infest the political dialogue everywhere, apparently. And it's not a mutually exclusive, zero-sum issue. You can be against anti-Semitism and against this stuff for the same reason, because you're for human rights. No big deal. People are gonna overplay their hand sooner or later, if they haven't already, and that has a reaction. So I might want to put it that way. I don't know how pithy that is, or I don't know Britain, the British Jewish culture, but I know the American Jewish culture. That makes some headway with people who really don't give a damn otherwise than what's good for the Jews, And they're like, oh God, that's right. Keep my powder dry. Crying wolf, man, it's not a good move. No one, at a certain point, you're going to hit a tipping point and people will not believe you anymore. They're like, anti-Semitism is just a political weapon. And there'll be real anti-Semitism going on, which, as we all know, everyone will admit, happens. It does. Nowhere near as bad as anti-Mexican, immigrant, Islamic hatreds in this country by like orders of magnitude, but it's real, So you could put it that way, maybe that'll help. And it's really terrible in Europe to really lean on people in a post-World War II setting, especially in Germany. The last thing they want to be is labeled anti-Semitic. And I understand why. And you just have a moral imperative not to do that. Because then if there really is someone who really is being anti-Semitic and you say it, people will believe you. And they should. And you don't want, this is a general political thing, I know you know. You really don't want to do that. But the goal now is to make like a kind of missile defense system where anything Israel does is wonderful and any criticism is anti-Semitic. And the lip service that we don't really think that is just that, lip service. And it's starting to turn people off and really offend them and piss them off. And since I'm known as an American Jew who's not into all that stuff, non-Jewish friends of mine shyly say, this is really getting kind of disgusting. they're afraid to say it aloud. In a weird way, almost for a good reason, because nobody wants to be seen as anti-Semitic. Like the Trumpers here, there's not one of them who says, damn it, I'm a racist. No one wants to, no, we're not racist, we're not this. That's great, because 50 years ago, it was like, yep, I'm a racist, and how do you like that? That's progress in an odd way.
Last 2 days have seen a barbaric bombing of the tiny little enclave, Palestinian enclave, which is Gaza. So far we have around 300 people killed.
We came here, a group of Orthodox Jewish people, not the first time, as we do this on a regular basis. Unfortunately, already over 60 years, Orthodox Jews are against what's happening in Israel, what's happening in Palestine. What's happening in Palestine is embarrassing. It's against Judaism and against humanity. What's happening now in this Marriott Hotel is shameful, a shameful support for the state of Israel, and especially when it happens in my name, it happens in the name of my people, it's even worse.
We have taken to the streets today in order to protest against Zionism and the state which calls itself Israel. We are here to voice our position and strongest condemnation of what is being done in the name of Judaism and the Jewish people to the Palestinian Arab people. We are here to speak up and save our Jewish brethren from the hands of the Zionists who are attempting to eradicate their Jewish souls. We are here to plead for the religious Jewish communities in the Holy Land, which the Zionists want to destroy entirely.
We cry out again for worldwide that Zionism is a cruelty for Judaism. Judaism and Zionism will never be united.
Organized by Jewish groups who are speaking out against Israel's actions. Today we're joined by two Jewish women for peace. Dorothy Zellner, a Jewish activist here in New York, one of 15 Jews who've signed a call for a protest in front of the Israeli consulate today.
Yes, several Jews have gotten together and issued a call to Jews in the city of New York. Show this is intolerable, we cannot take it anymore, we're heartsick in two respects. We're paying for it, and they supposedly are doing it for us, and we are not going to let them.
In front of the United Nations mission in Tehran to protest Israel's attacks on the people of Gaza. They are here to voice their sympathy, but most of these people, as you can see around me, are children. The Jewish children from schools who have come here to voice sympathy with the Palestinian children who are living in subhuman conditions in besieged Gaza. Also, as you can see, also, I don't know if the pictures can show or not, they're holding up placards reading no war or let's pray for peace in the Middle East. And minutes ago I was talking to a number of these people. Aside from these children, there are also other members of the Jewish community of Iran who told me that they are here to, first of all, clarify that there is a big difference between Judaism and Zionism. They believe that Zionism is a political ideology. It has nothing to do with Judaism, and whatever is happening in besieged Gaza, Israel is doing in Gaza, has nothing to do with Judaism.
Palestine is under this same unjust and illegitimate occupation. And half a year ago in July, a delegation went to Gaza representing Orthodox Jewish congregations of the United States, Canada, England, and outgroups in Jerusalem and Palestine. Firstly, to break the Zionist siege, let the world know that the acts committed by Zionists is against the Almighty and does not in any way represent the entire Jewish people, and certainly not the Jewish religion and the Torah.
And one of the people protesting Israel's response might surprise you because she is Jewish. Her name is Hetty Epstein, and she is also a Holocaust survivor. Hetty was a little girl living in Kippenheim, Germany, when Hitler came to power. In 1939, her parents sent her to safety to England. How your experiences, growing up in Nazi Germany and with the Holocaust shape how you view the world today?
I think it did shape me, and I know what it felt like to be persecuted to be discriminated against. And so I guess because of that, I can't stand idly by when I see that other people are being hurt. Palestinians have, they don't have tanks, they don't have airplanes, they don't have the most recent military, it's the occupation. If the occupation were to end.
Sir Jeremy Corbyn. Madam Deputy Speaker, I was brought up as an Orthodox Jew and a Zionist. My parents came to Britain as refugees from Poland. Most of their families were subsequently murdered by the Nazis in the Holocaust. Madam Deputy Speaker, my grandmother did not die to provide cover for Israeli soldiers murdering Palestinian grandmothers in Gaza. The present Israeli government ruthlessly and cynically exploit the continuing guilt among Gentiles over the slaughter of Jews in the Holocaust as justification for their murder of Palestinians.
Shministi means 12th graders in Hebrew.
We are Israeli conscientious objectors. That means we refuse to serve in the Israeli army.
Because they are occupying another people, the Palestinians.
Palestinian kids can't go to school because of checkpoints.
They even get health care.
Many young Palestinians go to prison for no reason.
A lot of them have been killed.
Or their homes demolished.
The government says this policy is keeping us safe.
But denying Palestinians their basic human rights put us all in danger.
It's illegal.
It's wrong.
It's immoral.
It's against my personal beliefs.
It's against my basic values.
It's against my values.
That is why we are conscientious objectors.
That's why we're conscientious objectors.
That's why we're conscientious.
We're being jailed for refusing to serve in the army.
We need you.
Of course, this is just one more chain, one more link in a chain, one more step in the continuation of this terrible evil of Zionism in the state of Israel. And to demonstrate with the greatest voice of opposition as representatives of the Jews throughout the world, Jews true to God and His Torah, we have come here to vehemently object and state that they have no right to speak in our name. This is not a Jewish state. It is not the Jewish state. Judaism and Zionism is diametric opposites. Judaism is spirituality. Zionism is 100 years old, around 100 years old, created by atheists, by people who detested God and the religion, and decided to transform Judaism into nationalism. Ironically, it is forbidden for us as a Jewish people to have our own sovereignty, to have our own state, even if it would be in a desolate, uninhabited land.